Well, in some cases, you might find out that your spouse is up to no good by simply something in the mail. Wife had an abortion 2 years into our marriage, but I had a vasectomy before I met her. This story has 4 updates. Here we go. The medical bill sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I opened it. Working 12-hour shifts in the ER, mail tends to pile up. When I finally tore into the envelope, something wasn't right. The statement was from Women's Health Associates, dated 3 months ago. Our insurance had covered most of it, but there it was in black and white: therapeutic abortion, first trimester. I was like, what the hell is this? 12 years ago, at age 26, I'd gotten a vasectomy. It wasn't a rushed decision. I'd never wanted kids, and after watching countless unwanted pregnancies come through the ER doors, I'd made sure that wouldn't be me. The procedure was done by the head of urology at my hospital. I even got annual checks the first few years to confirm it took. Some background might help make sense of this mess. I'm an ER nurse, been doing it for 15 years. Met my wife at a hospital fundraiser 5 years ago. She was the pharmaceutical rep presenting the newest diabetes medication to our staff. She stood out because she actually knew her stuff, could talk medicine without stumbling over terminology. Most reps just read from their cards. When we started dating, I was upfront about the vasectomy. First serious date, actually. Didn't want any misconceptions about my stance on kids. She said it was perfect. She'd chosen her career over family. Didn't want children either. Her job kept her traveling. Mine kept me on rotating shifts. It worked. We got married 3 years ago. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Our life settled into a rhythm. My 312s at the hospital, her sales routes and overnight conferences. We saw each other between shifts, made the most of our overlapping free time. Normal stuff. Looking back, the changes started about 6 months ago. She joined this high-end gym near her office, started working with a personal trainer, said she needed to look good for her sales presentations. Made sense. Pharmaceutical sales are competitive. Appearance matters. But suddenly, there were extra sessions added, evening workouts that ran late, weekend fitness seminars I wasn't invited to. Her work schedule got more chaotic. More overnight trips, last-minute sales meetings. The pharmaceutical industry runs on relationships, she'd always say. Lots of dinners, lots of networking. I got it. I'd covered enough night shifts to understand irregular hours, but small things kept nagging. Her phone got a new password. She said she wanted her information to be safe when around new people. She claimed, started doing her own laundry, which was weird since we'd always just tossed everything in together between shifts. Changed her email password too. Said there was a security breach at her company. Everyone had to update their accounts. The real red flag, birth control pills in her gym bag last month. Found them while looking for a phone charger. When I asked about them, she said they were for hormone regulation. Made a whole show of explaining how they helped with her cycle. Being a nurse, I knew that was plausible, but something felt off. Why would someone need birth control when their husband had a vasectomy? Now this bill, this impossible bill, sitting on my counter like a time bomb. I pulled up our insurance account online, scrolled back through the claims. There it was, multiple visits to Women's Health Associates over the past few months, prenatal vitamins, ultrasound, blood work, then the procedure. My next 3 shifts at the hospital were going to be interesting because while my wife thought I was working nights this week, I'd actually switched to days. Plenty of time to talk to a private investigator recommended by our hospital's risk management team. Something told me this medical bill was just the beginning. I hired the PI the hospital's risk management team recommended 2 days later. The PI didn't waste time getting started. While I worked my day shifts in the ER, he tracked my wife's movements. Turns out those evening training sessions at her fancy gym lasted exactly 45 minutes, but her car stayed in the parking lot for hours. The PI's first photo showed her and her trainer leaving through a side entrance, getting into his Jeep, and heading to an apartment complex across town. But I needed more proof before confronting her. First stop was my urologist's office. 12 years post-vasectomy, I needed to be certain nothing had reversed. The results came back clear. Not a swimmer in sight. The doctor even checked my surgical records. Double cuts, cauterized, titanium clips. The procedure was permanent. Meanwhile, those insurance records revealed more than just the abortion. Regular appointments at Women's Health Associates started 6 months ago, right when she began her intensive training program. Prenatal vitamins prescribed 8 weeks before the procedure. Morning sickness medication. Every visit, every prescription, documented in our insurance portal. The trainer wasn't just any gym employee. He ran their elite client program, personal coaching for professionals who needed flexible scheduling. His bio on the gym's website listed certifications in fitness nutrition and lifestyle coaching. Recently divorced. According to the PI's background check, no kids. I started digging deeper at home, found a hidden folder in our shared cloud storage, pictures of them together at restaurants, hotel lobbies, even a weekend trip to the beach when she was supposed to be at a pharmaceutical conference. The timestamps matched her work trips perfectly. I gave the private investigator all of my wife's personal information. When he ran her credit, he found she had a secret credit card account. He told me he could get in trouble for doing that, but he said he could remove the inquiry from her credit report before she would notice. He found charges for hotels, boutique clothing stores, and restaurants across town. She'd gotten sloppy with hiding. A second phone turned up in her gym bag, tucked inside a hidden pocket. But the real kicker came from Women's Health Associates directly. Being in healthcare has its advantages. One of their nurses used to work in my ER. When I explained the situation, she confirmed my wife had listed the trainer as her emergency contact. Not me, her husband, not even her family. The guy she was having an affair with. Looking at 6 months of evidence, everything aligned. The late night training session started in March. Her first prenatal visit was in April. Morning sickness medication filled in May. The procedure happened in July. Each date, each detail, painted a clear picture of deception. I documented everything methodically. Maybe the ER nurse in me needed to chart it like a patient's history. Made copies of the insurance claims. Backed up the hidden photos. Recorded the credit card statements. The PI provided a detailed report with times, dates, and surveillance photos. Then I called the divorce attorney recommended by the private investigator, sent over all the evidence in a single encrypted file. The lawyer's response was direct. With this level of documentation, the divorce would be clean and quick. No bickering back and forth, just facts, dates, and irrefutable proof. 3 days of investigation revealed 6 months of lies. Now I just had to make it through 2 more shifts at the hospital. The divorce papers would be ready Monday morning. Meanwhile, my wife was due back from another overnight sales conference tomorrow. The same conference the PI had photographed her attending with her trainer at a hotel downtown. After my last hospital shift on Sunday, I laid everything in the living room on the coffee table. Insurance statements from Women's Health Associates, PI photos from the gym and hotels, screenshots of the hidden credit card charges, the second phone from her gym bag, her prenatal documentation, the final bill for the procedure that started this whole investigation. My work schedule meant I heard her car pull into the driveway at 8 p.m., much later than the usual return time from her sales conferences. The PI had texted earlier. Her trainer's Jeep had dropped her off 2 blocks away. She probably thought I was still working nights. When she walked in, Rolling her weekend bag across our hardwood floors, she froze at the sight of me sitting at the coffee table. Her eyes locked onto the spread of papers, then darted to the medical bill sitting on top. "The hospital's been understaffed," I told her. "So I switched to day shift 3 weeks ago. Told you I was working nights though. Funny how those night shifts matched perfectly with your training sessions." She started reaching for her phone, probably to delete evidence or warn her trainer. "Don't bother," I said, sliding her second phone across the table. "Found this in your gym bag last week. The pin was your trainer's birthday. Not very subtle." The pharmaceutical sales professional mask cracked. She started to speak, probably ready to spin some story about hormone regulation and birth control pills. I cut her off by pulling out the PI's photos, her and the trainer entering his apartment building, leaving hotels, sitting close at restaurants meant for romantic dinners. "Women's health associates called about a follow-up appointment," I said. "Seems they had my work number as an emergency contact from years ago when I referred patients there. Interesting how your trainer was listed as your current emergency contact. Must have forgotten to update that." Her face went pale, the careful facade of the successful pharmaceutical rep completely shattered. "Here's what's going to happen," sliding a folder across the table. I told her my lawyer has already prepared the divorce papers. "You've got 48 hours to pack your stuff and get out of my house. I don't give a damn where you go." The lawyer said, "Since everything's documented, this should be quick." Oh, and I took the liberty of having another sperm count done last week, still shooting blanks after 12 years. Guess that makes the paternity pretty clear. She started to say something about explaining, about making things right. I held up the ultrasound photo found in her hidden cloud folder. "You had unprotected sex with your trainer, got pregnant, had an abortion, all while married to a man who had a vasectomy. There's nothing to explain." I stood up, gathering the evidence into folders. The gym's owner-directors received an interesting email about their elite trainer program. Seems they don't appreciate staff members sleeping with clients, especially when it ends in terminated pregnancies. You might want to find a new gym. My hospital badge was sitting on the table, a reminder that I had an early shift tomorrow. "I'll be gone 12 hours. When I get back, I expect you to be gone. Hopefully you will be out of my sight. Your lawyer can contact mine about property division." I grabbed my badge and headed upstairs to sleep before my shift. Behind me, I heard her sink into a chair, surrounded by 6 months of documented deception. The PI texted one last time. The trainer had already cleaned out his apartment, apparently accepting a job at a gym 2 states away. She was on her own. First update, 1 month later. The past week has been surreal. When I returned from my shift that Monday, she'd cleared out most of her things, left her keys on the dining room table next to divorce papers, signed. Her lawyer contacted mine the next day. Apparently, when faced with overwhelming evidence, even a skilled pharmaceutical sales rep knows when to cut losses. The fallout spread faster than a hospital flu outbreak. Her trainer's sudden departure from the gym raised eyebrows. Speaking of the trainer, he scrubbed his social media, deleted his professional profiles. The PI's last report showed him working at some budget gym in Cincinnati. No more elite client program, just regular personal training shifts. The medical community runs on gossip worse than a high school. Word got around Women's Health Associates about why I requested my vasectomy records. One of their nurses, remember my former ER colleague, filled in some gaps. My wife had registered as self-pay for her first 2 visits before switching to our insurance. She'd told the clinic I was infertile, not surgically sterile. Medical ethics prevented them from discussing her case with me then, but now professional courtesy opened some doors. Her pharmaceutical sales job took a hit. Hard to maintain those client relationships when you're suddenly relocating. She'd already accepted a transfer to their Dallas office. Funny how the industry she worked in provided the clearest evidence against her. Every prescription, every medical visit, all documented in pristine detail. The divorce is moving fast. No kids and no contested assets. My lawyer says the medical records and PI evidence make this straightforward. She's not fighting anything, probably hoping to keep the whole story quiet. Found more evidence in the house while packing her abandoned things. Hidden pregnancy tests in the bathroom cabinet. A journal detailing her fitness journey that read more like affair documentation. Receipts for lingerie never worn at home. A business card for a divorce attorney from 3 months ago. Guess she had her own exit strategy before the abortion bill arrived. My colleagues at the hospital have been solid. Picked up extra shifts when I needed time for lawyer meetings. Kept the gossip contained to our department. The ER director even adjusted my schedule. No more night shifts for now. Said something about ensuring work-life balance during personal transitions. Hospital code for "we've got your back." I have decided to renovate my home the way I want it to look. Don't want anything in this house to remind me of her. More updates will come as the divorce progresses. For now, I'm focused on work. Nothing clears the mind like 12-hour ER shifts. Second update, 2 months later. The divorce moves faster when one party's caught between medical records and PI photos. The first court hearing was yesterday, over in 20 minutes. No contested claims when there is an insurance trail of infidelity and a terminated pregnancy while married to a man with documented sterility. Remember, her personal trainer was married. The trainer's ex-wife shared an interesting detail. Their divorce involved a similar situation. Apparently, he had a pattern. She said it seemed he would target married clients, start affairs, get careless about protection, and then ask them for money. Guy's a walking liability for any gym's insurance policy. His new job in Cincinnati already terminated after their background check finally came through. Third update, 3 months later. The divorce finalized yesterday. 1 hour in court ended 3 years of marriage. The judge expedited everything after seeing the medical records. The trainer's story got worse. Cincinnati wasn't his only stop after leaving town. 3 more gyms, 3 more states, the same exact thing. His ex-wife's lawyer connected with other victims. Turns out he'd been documenting his conquests in a private cloud account. Needless to say, things are looking bad for him. Women's Health Associates did a full audit of their intake procedures, found 8 other cases of patients providing false information about partners' fertility status. My former ER colleague says they've completely revamped their verification process. The professional fallout spread through medical circles. 3 more clinics discovered similar cases, found the last piece of evidence while sorting old email accounts. Draft message to her trainer from 4 months ago, planning their future. She'd mapped out leaving me, claiming irreconcilable differences, starting fresh. No mention of the pregnancy, no guilt about the lies, just cold calculation from a pharmaceutical rep who thought she could outmaneuver medical records. Final update, 6 months later. The last pieces of this medical nightmare finally fell into place. The state board finished their investigation. Turns out my ex's case triggered a full review of pharmaceutical sales practices in healthcare settings. The trainer's story ended in predictable tragedy. After bouncing through 5 more gyms, he got caught stealing prescription pads from a client's medical office. DEA got involved, found a pattern of prescription fraud dating back years. He'd been using his elite client status to access medical professionals' personal items during training sessions, currently awaiting trial in Tennessee. The pharmaceutical company's audit went deeper than expected, found evidence of my ex coaching other sales reps on accessing medical records through personal relationships. 5 more reps were fired. The entire regional sales team underwent ethics retraining. Found one final surprise. while closing old accounts, pregnancy tests, and fertility tracking apps on a cloud backup, dated months before the affair started. She'd been planning this pregnancy, tracking ovulation, timing everything. The trainer wasn't just convenient, he was selected. Makes the vasectomy irony even sharper. Final insurance audit completed last week. Every claim documented, every falsified form tracked. The paper trail she left trying to hide her affair became the evidence that destroyed her medical career. 12 years of verified sterility versus 6 months of documented deception. Medical records don't lie, even when people do. Taking an ER director position next month. Different hospital, fresh start. The trauma team's throwing a goodbye party. This is my final update. Some cases in the ER leave lasting impressions. Some change hospital protocols. This one did both. Stay frosty, medical professionals, and always keep your vasectomy records current.